Welcome to the Prodigal Blonde Unfiltered with me, Andrea Logan. You guys, I am so excited for today's guest. If you are a TV fan, Milena Roucka is known for Rosa Mendes on the WWE, former WWE star, and Total Divas, but now she has transformed her life into being in ministry full-time. Her story, her journey, her heart for God is incredible. Everybody welcome this beautiful woman and mama, Milena. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Andrea. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you about your journey and looking at your beautiful face to think that you went from where you're at to where you are now. So for nobody, if nobody has watched TV, let the audience know. First of all, I want to hear about your journey, where you grew up, and then we will fast forward to how you fell into the world of wrestling and TV and all the things, and then fast forward to Jesus and ministry.
So I grew up in Vancouver, Canada, and I was raised by my single mom. And I was always like a child that was very curious and had a lot of questions. I had this like yearning and like burning sensation in me that I had a purpose. There was something more. And it was really weird because I was only like 5 or 6 years old. And I'm like, wait, so when I die, is that it? Like, that's it? Like, and this would like be like coming in my mind. And I would ask my mom and she's kind of looking at me like, wow. But we didn't go to church or anything. So she tells me about Adam and Eve. And then she starts talking about Satan. And I'm like, so there's a talking snake? Okay, like I'm not buying this. But I did feel like there was a God, something more to like life. But I didn't, when she talked about Satan, I'm like, Satan isn't real. And so like I made bad decisions. I was a really nasty kid. I was mean. I would throw rocks at the boys in school. I was just an angry child, like just angry.
So did you have any siblings?
So I had a half sister. I have a half sister. I have a half sister. And so I lived with my mom and my sister till she went back to Costa Rica when I was 9 and my sister was 4. So that was a really hard time. She went back. She was just, the culture in Canada was not for her. And we had many family members, like 60 cousins, and they were really struggling. So she moved back and I had to move in with my dad and she moved in with her dad. So we got separated. So that was a very traumatic time. And my dad had a very demanding job as he was an electronic engineer. And so when I moved in with my dad, I just saw fear, like happy to have me, but he was like, how am I going to travel for work? Like I could just see like
the overwhelm.
And he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine. And it was just this pain that was like so suppressed and in denial. I felt like I needed to be loved. I needed to be liked. I needed to be the center of attention. And if I got in trouble, that would still be attention. So that's okay too.
Right.
And so fast forward, high school, I was on the basketball team and I didn't even like basketball, but I just wanted to be in like the court and people like watching me and to be popular, And so I did everything I could to be popular. And I just was bored. I was popular and I was bored. And so I started traveling to the other side of town. I grew up in a nice like neighborhood, a good district. Like when I moved in with my dad, we moved into like a better area. I traveled all the way to the other side of town to this, harder area and hung out with a group of friends where we would get into a lot of trouble. Like, I don't want to get into details. It was bad, very bad. And they had this great idea. You should just drop out of high school. And I'm like, you know what? I don't need to be around these people. I'm like, I'm going to get out of here. And so the pinnacle point of the like turning point of my life where everything went south and I started really going down the wrong direction was when I was in the counselor's room in high school, and my dad was just looking like desperate. And I told the counselor, I'm leaving. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't belong here. And all she said to me was, "You're making a really big mistake." That's all. That's all she said. She didn't say, "Please stay, hold my hand, like you're making a wrong decision, look into my eyes." She was like, "Good riddance." I felt very empty.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started getting really like obsessed with my looks. And I would watch like Entertainment Tonight and these shows and see like the red carpet and the stars, and everybody's like, I know you can relate to this, like just like they're happy.
They're
They're,
perfect.
they're
Yep.
never feeling empty. They're always feeling loved and sought after. Everybody knows their name. And I'm like, I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be on TV. I'm going to be famous. I'm going to feel loved. This hole in my heart is going to get filled.
Mm.
It is going to be it. So I started working out like crazy, like just like obsessed with my looks.
I don't know where your mom went off, but I essentially raised myself, and so I fell into an eating disorder. But in high school, and I didn't drop out, but I was also very self-destructive, very self-sabotaging. But then the perfectionism. So I'm
Mm.
relating to the also that need to be perfect on the outside to feel approved because we're broken on the inside.
I wasn't doing really well in Canada. So I moved to Las Vegas, where my best friend, who's actually, she was always in high school, she was always like the good one. So she was never got into trouble, but she got a job at the Wynn Casino.
Uh-huh.
And so she's like, come move in with me. And I'm like, okay. So I move in with her and I start doing the conventions, like the
Yeah.
modeling,
Yep.
where like they hire models and they hand out pamphlets and look all pretty. And I was getting paid. I was like, this is cool. And then I had a couple modeling bookers and I started doing these modeling contests. So I won Hawaiian Tropic, Miss Indy 500. I'm going to Costa Rica. I win this modeling contest. I'm like, okay, so this is like my dream. And I'm like, I know I'm going to feel fulfilled. Like, this is awesome. And then I'm like traveling around the world doing these photo shoots, glamour modeling. And it was nothing. I was depressed. I was still empty. I'm like, wait, this is what every girl wants.
How old were you?
I was 20 in my 20s. So like from 23 till about 26, 3 years. And my career was taking off.
So
And then
your
I'm like,
career was taking off and you were at the top and you're around all these other successful, beautiful, thin women. Did that ever get to you? Or were you just always so like disciplined that you were in competition with yourself?
I was so miserable that I was like numbing, like by going partying and like, just
Yep.
being so busy that I didn't have time to think. Like, so I would take jobs like, and like fly to Mexico, fly to LA, like 3 days later. Like I didn't have time to like even, it was exhausting, but I still felt that emptiness. I'm like, I need more. And this is the enemy, because I didn't believe in the enemy was whispering in my ear, you're not enough. You need more. You can have more. You need to try harder. You need to work harder. And so I'm in Vegas and I get this email from a booker and he's like, have you watched WWE before? And I'm like, yeah. Why? And he's like, there's a diva search and they're looking for models to turn into wrestlers. And I was taking Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu at the time, and I was really rough around the edges. Like being in the entertainment industry, you have to be like tough because if
Yeah.
you're not, you're gonna get eaten alive. So I was a really tough girl. I sent them a video and they loved me and they flew down to interview me again. And then they flew me to LA for like in this convention center with like so many models. And I was wearing like a baseball cap, like I did not fit in. I was just like, okay, this is not going to go well. So I might as well just like have fun at this interview, because girls were going into this interview room and leaving and crying. And so like, yeah, because they were getting cuts because they were picking 8 girls. And so for 3 days, girls were getting cut, and the last 8 girls would go on TV and do these like little competitions and interviews, and then they would cut a girl each week. Like,
Okay. Yep.
so then I went in the room and I'm like, my name is Milena, and I just didn't care because I thought they weren't going to pick me, but apparently they loved it. So
Yep. Because you didn't care.
I didn't care. And all these girls were like, and I was like, oh, who cares if I get this? And so I made the final 8. I was in 4th place. And I remember I remember being on the ramp and being like, seeing all the people.
Mhm.
And at that moment, like around those people, even though they were booing me because they didn't really like me, the feeling of emptiness went away for like those 2 minutes, just 2 minutes. And I was like, oh, this is it. This is going to be it. This is going to be the thing that makes me feel like fulfilled in this. I'm going to feel happy and this is going to feel good. And I had to be on TV. Like but they didn't pick me. I came in 4th place and I'm like, I need a job. I don't care if you pay me anything. Like I will go, I will train. And they ended up moving me to Louisville, Kentucky. And it wasn't a publicly traded company at that time. So like I was not treated very good because I was mouthy and I was a little bit rude. And so like I was not liked. And I remember disrespecting, it was CM Punk, which is a very influential wrestler. I said something like, why is everyone fake here to him? And everyone like dropped their mouth and they were like, she just disrespected CM Punk. And I'm like, I think I might have done something wrong. So I apologized to him. He didn't want to have it. But every day, every time I saw him, I would go and shake his hand. Hi. And he would ignore me. After a year, it took him a year to finally shake my hand. Yeah, I had heat from the get-go. From the get-go, I wasn't liked.
Okay.
And so it was really hard. And then so 3 years go by or 2 years go by, and then I go to the big leagues. I'm on TV. So I finally make it. So I'm like, this is it. I'm gonna be happy. This is it. Everyone's gonna know my name like this. I'm gonna be famous. This is awesome. I get there and I start traveling. I'm making like way more money, like way more. And then I'm back in the hotel room alone.
Yep.
And it's there again. And I'm like, wait, like, why? I worked so hard to get here.
Yeah.
And there's like, why am I still feeling like this? It doesn't make sense. This is what everybody wants. Everybody says, like, if you're famous, the world tells us if you're famous, if you have a following, if if you're gonna be happy. If you have these shoes, if you have this car, if you have these things, you're gonna be happy. Well, I had a lot and I still wasn't happy. And so there comes, the devil again whispering in my ear, you need to be a top girl. You need to be better. You're not good enough. You're a low card, like you. And I was like, I need more. I need more. Somehow I need more. So then, and during this time, my mom finds Jesus.
Amazing.
My mom, who completely transformed, working with missionaries, building tents for homeless people.
Oh.
And praying and saying, read your Bible. I'm like, I don't understand the Bible, but I tried. I tried to read the Bible. I tried to go to church. I went to a Baptist church so after Kentucky, the wrestling school moved to Tampa, Florida. And so I started trying to go to church. And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, okay, so I like it. I like the people, but I'm not going to follow a lot of this stuff in the Bible. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. This is like, it's convicting. And I'll follow just this and this and this, and I'll be fine. I get baptized. Yes, I believe he died for my sins, but I'm not going to do what the Bible is telling me to do because that's just impossible. I thought it was impossible to live a righteous life. Seriously.
Right.
And so I read the Bible and I just could not understand. I was reading, I'm like, I don't understand these, like, what these stories, like, I'm not connecting to it. I don't get it. But my mom kept praying and she kept praying. So then fast forward a couple of years, I have my daughter. So, I have this beautiful child. And like, I remember when she was born and the doctor put her on my chest and she looked up at me, and I will never forget this
Mm.
face. And she looked up at me, and I never felt love before. Never in my life did I feel love like this. And
Mm.
so that was a moment where I was like, okay, so she was born on the TV show on Total Divas. So
Wow.
she was, yeah. So she's in this life, like she's already in this life.
Yep.
She has 60,000 followers on Instagram, even though she's inactive now. Like 50, even though she's inactive, she has 60,000 followers on Instagram. So she's instant fame. So I'm like raising this child, and I'm like, I don't want her to live. I don't want her to feel this ever. I don't want her to feel what I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I need to like make changes. So I retire from WWE. I start a meal plan company. And I'm like, okay, the devil's right there saying, you know what? You need to be an entrepreneur. Like you need to be a powerful entrepreneur. That wasn't enough. So I come out with a protein bar company. That wasn't enough. So I come out with a workout app. It was like this chasing, like nonstop. And then my daughter's father and I, we split up because he was feeling the spiritual warfare within me was like intense, you know? And so amicably, we parted ways. He went back to California. I stayed in Pittsburgh, and I'm running these companies with the co-founder. And then everything's fine, right? And she goes to her grandparents' house, and I go to the bathroom, and I'm in front of the mirror, and I look in the mirror, and I finally, because I was in denial. I was so in denial. I was like, I'm fine. I'm good. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. I'm empty. I'm sad, but everything's fine. Always. And for the first time, I look into my eyes, and I see the saddest person looking back at me, like this most miserable, emptiest, like it was like the veil came off, and I saw the truth.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then for the first time, I was like, I don't want to live like this anymore. And so when I saw my face like this, my eyes like that, I just went to the ground, and I started praying. Like, I mean, when I'm telling you praying, I mean screaming.
Yep.
Out to God, arms up. If you're there and you can hear me, it says in your word that you can fill this hole, that there's everlasting water. You can fill this hole in my heart. Take this away from me, and I will give you everything. Take it away. Take this away. Take it away. Take the house. Take the cars. Take everything away from me. Take my fame, but don't, because I was reading Job at the time. Don't take away my daughter. Don't take away my
Amen. Yes. Yep.
So I did, this was like 3 days of repenting. She stayed with her grandparents, 3 days of crying, repenting, and praying. Wow. And then after all of that, I look at my phone, I wake up in the morning, and I'm getting these emails from like Instagram, like these weird emails. I'm like, what is happening? And I got hacked on Instagram, and my businesses were ran virtually. The protein bars were advertised there, everything. I mean, my photo shoots, everything hacked. And that was the first sign. And so the co-founder of my company, our company calls me, and we get into this like very heated like discussion. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I know I can't do this anymore. I just can't. And so I just left. And then 3 days later, I go to my mailbox, and there's a letter from the IRS. We're foreclosing your house.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, if the hacking wasn't enough, the discussion with the co-founder, business is done. And now my house. And so at that moment after the house thing, I went into my closet. I ripped all the clothes off the hangers, all the little clothes, the handbags. I mean, I still have one left that I've had for the Louis last forever. So I have one left. I got rid of the $3,000. I mean, I literally, the high heels, got rid of everything. My Rolex. I went and bought a cross. Got rid of the Rolex. Everything that defined Rosa Mendez. Everything that defined that person. I
Ooh,
left.
chills.
And I started going to all the Bible study. Like, I signed up to Tuesday morning Bible study. I went to church, like did not miss at all, and fully submitted my life to the Lord. And I was completely transformed to the point where I even said to my pastor, like, what happened to me? Everything that I used to love, I can't stand. Like, it's gross to me. Like,
Preach.
what happened to me? And I was the first year of being a new believer like that, this is why, like, I want to be friends with all new believers, because like, you're so confused. Like, I can't hang out with you because like, you're wild. And like, the church, which, I love my church. They welcomed me. They saw every stage and they never made me feel different. Baptist church, like old school Baptist church.
Wow.
And yeah, so they helped me get saved because they were there. They were there the whole time. And then I didn't have a real friend group at the church. So like, I was so alone. And I was like, the first year was really difficult. And then I lost my livelihood, right? So like,
Right.
I had to pay back all this money to the IRS. I was on food stamps. Yes.
Wow.
And when you get hacked, when you get your Instagram back, you always get all the photos back. They usually reinstate everything.
Oh.
My whole Instagram was wiped out. The photo shoots, everything. When I got it back, was irretrievable. So like, God literally like he wiped it clean for me. I didn't have to do it. He did it for me.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I had to start from life from scratch, which was hard. Especially like, so that was like, all I knew was entertainment and I didn't want to go back.
Right.
Yes. And I went back to college. Fast forward, I go to college and my degree was psychology. But then every time I took a biblical course, I would feel this like pull in this year. I was getting like 99% I'm like, I'm a high school dropout. I'm like getting these grades and like the Bible courses, like 99%, 98%. I'm like, I was never an A student. Like, look what God is doing in my life. I failed everything.
Yep.
I was even like in WWE, like the least like paid. So I was like, I was always like bottom. And here I am getting like like an honor student, And so that's when the Lord put it in my heart. I rewind. Like, where did it all go wrong? Where did it all go wrong? And it was in that office with the counselor.
Yep.
When she didn't fight for me, that's when I made the decision. I'm gonna work with youth. I'm gonna serve youth. And with my story being so like, the world is telling these kids, you need this and you need this and you need this to be somebody. Like, they are trying to find their identity. They're completely lost. They don't know where to fit in. And a lot of these kids are not born into money. So they're socioeconomically struggling.
Yep.
And then the world is telling them, like, if you don't have this, you're going to be a nobody. So right there, like, when they're born into this life, I'm a loser forever. Right?
Yes.
But nobody like tells them about Jesus. Like, I was on food stamps. I actually saved like pictures of my food stamp card just to show people. Like, I could barely put food on the table, but I had Jesus. I had an intimate relationship with Christ. And like, I felt fulfilled when I had nothing.
Goodness.
It was scary. It was scary. We still have that flesh. It was very scary, but I had rock solid faith.
Yep.
And I felt loved. Everything I'd been chasing for my whole entire life. I felt loved for the first time, felt worthy for the first time. My daughter's growing up in church. It is like I'm literally, my story is, my testimony is helping these kids realize that they don't need money and they don't need status to be fulfilled. And so they're like, wait a second, like I can have this, like I can feel like fulfilled without having it. Yes, it's God.
I love it. My son is a senior, and I wish he was in the room right now. I'm going to make him listen to this, right? Because he has had 2 of his 4 years of high school taken up. We could look at it as being robbed of him, but I tell him God still has a plan. So he had a physical injury and then has had a chronic illness. So he has not had this normal high school experience. Well, let me tell you, and we live in an affluent Christian community. They go to Christian schools. But what I will say is each of my children are different. And academically, 2 of them are incredible academically. One of them struggles. And if you're not elite in academics or elite in athletics, including Christian schools, you're not cool. You're not in the in crowd. And it starts with the parents. And I'm so grateful for women and people like you, Milena, for doing this for our kids. Like, you bring tears to me because I have fought this fight for the last 2 years, and my son's been suicidal because he feels like he's isolated, he's invisible, he's not enough, because he's not in that circle of influence, right? And I just keep telling him, if you have Jesus, you have everything. That's all you need, bud. I go, I don't know why God has blocked this path for you, but I do know he is making you a warrior, and you are going to come out stronger, and your comeback is greater than your setback. And that goes for your story, because that is your testimony. And for everybody watching, that no matter what we're going through, and we can see it, especially like you said, you've been off of social media for what, a year, 2 years? And that in itself is a testimony, right? You have almost 1 million followers, and you're like, I could give a rip.
Mm-hmm.
I could give a rip, because you know that it's the followers, the money, the fame. Like, it's so fleeting. That's a veneer to what God really has for all of our lives. You tasted the world, and you're like, I think I got Jesus. I think Jesus tastes better, right?
Way better. I love that. Jesus tastes better. That's so good.
I'm so blessed by your story and your testimony, because you look at so many people thinking that if they're only somebody, not even necessarily on TV or WWE, but if they're famous, if they're TikTok famous, if they're Instagram famous, if they're somebody. And then our kids, your daughter, my kids growing up, it's like, we already are somebody because we're God's kids.
Yeah.
We're a child of God. Like, who says that you have to have a certain number of followers to be validated? Because we need people like you that are bold enough to say, guys, I had it all. I had it all. And it didn't satisfy. It didn't give me what I thought I would, really have that I needed. And you're back to preaching the gospel and preaching the truth and speaking life into these kids, that death was spoken over you. So where the enemy tried to steal your life, you went back, and now you are flourishing and blessing other people's lives tenfold and 20-fold. Yes. And you know what I'm saying? It's like you're fertilizing. You're fertilizing everything that the enemy tried to steal from you. You're like, oh, heck no.
It's like when I see a kid like decide to give their life to Christ, that to me, I remember I baptized 3 kids last May, and I put them in the water, each one by one. They professed their faith and commitment to Christ. And I'm telling you, when I lifted them out of the water and the way their eyes shined, that was better than me walking out to 70,000 people, WrestleMania. I'm like, God, I'm like, I used to be like in a ring, like shaking my booty, like just, you know what I mean? I didn't even know that I had like this, like changing somebody's life to make better choices for the rest of their life. And they're going to profess the gospel to other people and like Like, this is like his kingdom. This is bigger than anything, bigger than WWE, bigger than any fame, bigger than 1,000,000 followers. It is like heavenly, eternal kingdom.
The eternal fulfillment and the eternal perspective. And it's like I constantly have that because I'm always falling short. I mean, this is my podcast, The Prodigal Blonde, because, running back to Jesus, my story is a radical one, but even being in Christ, my story has been anything but perfect, right? Because we're so unfinished until the day that we meet Jesus. But man, if we can help one person come to know God's love and come to the Father, and we get to meet them in heaven one day, like, can you imagine? And the people that you influence, even God will never waste a chapter in your book and in your life and in anybody's life. Those those people that were your fans, that are your fans, they're looking at you now. They're seeing the transformation. And I think that's what's so good is God uses the ugliest seasons that we think, oh, this is it. We have it going. God will still use those people in that season. Because look at you now. You are stronger and you're more famous and more beautiful and more bold now when you don't care.
Yeah.
It's like when you don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't care, right?
Yeah. Exactly. You connected those two. That's funny. Oh my gosh. Wow.
And to see, so take us back to when God took your house. He took your social media following. He took your pictures. He took everything. How long did it take for you to really truly know your identity in the Lord, and then also for him to rebuild your life? Because that is a humbling, I've been a single mom now for over 5 years, and I have to say it's the most humbling thing to rely on Jesus. And I'm like, God, I live in LA. It's expensive out here.
I lived there before. Newport.
I'm like, please just call us out, Lord, call us out. He still has us here. My kids are in but at the same time, I know that he's he is my provider. I tell Diego, Jesus is the best sugar daddy ever because I don't need a sugar daddy.
I love that. It's so true.
I don't need a sugar daddy. I got Jesus.
Yeah. So I would say, well, right when I gave my life to Christ, I felt like I could finally be who I always wanted to be and not what the world wanted me to be. Because I had to live up to these expectations. I'm like, I got to do this photo shoot in Miami because I don't have any pictures up because they expect to see, my body and all that stuff. It was really tiring and exhausting. And I finally got to go to dinner and not bring like a Louis that's showing off and be like, look what I have. Oh, look at my new shoes. Like, I finally got to just be me, finally. And so right when I submitted my life to Christ was that moment. I was like, it was like the transformation. I know a lot of people don't have that kind of story. Like, I'm still getting sanctified to this day.
Of course.
And I'm still growing, but that initial, knowing I'm his child and I could just be comfortable in my own skin. That was right at that moment. Rebuilding, it took me till now. So it's been August 2019, and it's been a year of finally getting everything back, and it's coming back very quickly.
Amen.
All the prayers from the past 5 years are actually getting answered now. So 2 weeks ago, I got a job with Youth for Christ as a site director for South Park. I'm a Christian ministry major, Bachelor's of Science degree in Christian ministry, Liberty University. I'm graduating this summer. So I got the job. I'm graduating. I'm buying a new house. So everything is happening at the same time, all the blessings. But it's hard because I don't know what the future is going to look like, and that's scary.
Yeah.
So my favorite Bible verse right now is 1 Peter 1:19. We have the prophetic word more fully confirmed, to which you will do well to pay attention, as to a lamp shining in a dark place until the day dawns and the morning star rises in your hearts. And so he's literally lamping my feet every step, but I can't see ahead, and it's hard to know what's coming up, the future.
Right.
I'm just relying on my faith right now. But if right now everything is like beautiful and good, but it's also scary to just, take these new chapters of your life and not know what it's going to look like.
The unknown is always scary. But we do know that his plan is so good. It might not be in our vision, but it's just taking that next step and doing that next right thing, which is why you said it's taken a few years to rebuild, but which is why he's blessing you, because you're just being obedient with every step of the way. And God just wants our heart, and he wants us to be in relationship with him. And then everything else just kind of like falls into place. He knows your needs, he knows your daughter's needs, and I can't wait to see what he has for you, because I know it's good and it's beautiful, because you're completely on fire for him. And your courage to share your story is really so beautiful, because being vulnerable is not easy. So first of all, I want to thank you, because I know that it's easy to hide behind everything, but I feel like God is raising up a soldier and an army of people, specifically women, to say no more. I mean, let's just take the smoke and the mirrors off. You live life. And let's just get down and dirty with Jesus.
Yes.
And let's be real, because we have to. I mean, life is short. I'm mid-40s, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Right? So I feel like yesterday I moved to LA the day after I turned 20. I've been here 25 plus years. And so now I'm like, all right, Lord, I don't have a lot of time left, right? And so I feel this in my heart to reach as many people as we can on social media, to say, God will fulfill you, and his plan for you is greater than you can ever ask, think, or imagine, as for you, Milena. So I'm so excited to see God's just path unfold for you and your beautiful daughter. Oh my goodness, she's such an angel.
Thank you so much. And you've encouraged me to go back on social media, and I feel like people need to know the testimony, the stories, and I feel like the more Jesus is out there on social media, and if we can make sure that we focus on him and giving him the glory, it's a safe place. Mm-hmm.
And it's a dance, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we're trying to figure it out, because I don't love social media either. But it's also our way to stay current, and somehow to kind of get ourselves out there to work, to help other people.
Yes,
So
exactly.
this dance of trying to find it, but it's a daily surrender. Like, Lord, more of you, less of me, more of you, less of me.
Every day.
Our spirit, our flesh, our spirit. So,
yeah.
But you've blessed me so much. And I feel like I have this amazing, beautiful new sister in Christ that I'm like, oh my gosh, where have you been?
Yeah, we have to stay in touch for sure.
So thank you. Where can everybody find you, and how can we best support you and pray for you and your beautiful daughter?
So you can find me on Instagram at Real Milena Roucka. And as I told you, I just, signed with Youth for Christ, and I'm a site director at South Park, and I am raising funds to start the site. So I need support right now. I definitely need donors to help us get this site going, because the sooner we have enough funds to start, the sooner we have the funds, the sooner I can start reaching out to kids. So we have, we're close, but we just need a few more donors. So, yeah.
Amazing. We'll be praying for that. We will be in touch, and I'm so grateful, and gosh, so much love to you.
You too as well. Thank you, Andrea.